Alright guys, we're going to be spending a good amount of time on the basic user commands here, okay? Again, some of these should be reviewed, some of these may be new. Okay, and that's okay, because we're going to go through all of them. So first one we're talking about is echo, which displays print or text. It's important to encapsulate the text with quotation marks, otherwise the terminal might try to interpret some of it as a command, okay? Next we have exit, which is how you close the terminal. We have clear, which is going to clear all text in terminal. Or we can do Control L as a shorthand for that. We have mkdir, or make directory, which makes a new directory. We have rm, which will remove or delete a file. We have move, which will move files. And we have copy, which will copy files. Let's go ahead and head to a virtual box here. You guys can follow along with me if you'd like. We're going to talk about these. Oops. So first one we have is echo. Simple enough. So it's just going to echo out the text I say to the screen. I'm going to put hello students! Exclamation point. And you notice it's going to echo that to standard out. And there you go. It just echoes hello students. Okay. Now if I do hello students again without the quotation marks, it will do it. Well, again, just keep in mind that if you don't encapsulate it with the quotation marks, it might try to interpret those things as commands. So you always want to encapsulate it with quotation marks when you're using echo. I can do exit, which will exit the terminal. Okay, I'm going to ignore this. So I'm going to open that terminal back up. Okay. Clear, so if I have a bunch of stuff on my screen here, pwt, ll, BWE, I just put a bunch of stuff on my screen. I can type in clear here, oops, and hit enter, and it'll clear the screen. Okay. I can also make directory. So if I do an ls here, you see I have nothing on my desktop. Okay. If I do mkdir, I put test directory or tester. Now I do an ls. You see it made a directory here, right? So mkdir creates directories. Okay. I can do remove to remove files. So if I do a touch and I say test here, I do another ls. You see I have a file here named test. I can do rm test. And I do an ls, and you see now that test file is gone. So rm removes files. So I'm going to press clear here. It gets my space back on my screen. Okay, we can also move files. So if I create another file called test, okay, I do an ls. So test is there. I can do move, and then you're going to name the file that you want to move, which is test. And I'm going to move that to my home directory here. So yeah. Let's see if it will actually do that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to cd to home. Remember, tilde is the home directory. Okay. I'm going to do an ls, and there you go. You see that test file was moved to my home directory. Now guys, something to know about that test file or the move command is it's just renaming the file is really what it's doing. It's just telling the system, hey, here's where that file was stored. Let's rename it to this new location, and now this is where it's stored. That's how it's working. It's not really moving the file, it's renaming it. Okay, that is also how you would rename a file if you wanted to rename it. I could have renamed it to something else besides test. Okay, so that's also how you rename files. So let's talk about the copy command. So cp works similarly. I do cp, the file I want to copy. And let's move it to like one of these directories here. Yeah, let's move it to like let's move it to desktop. So I'll do desktop. Now I want to show you something here, guys. If I do lowercase d instead of uppercase here, right? It's going to say, I don't know what that is. Oh, well, do I have a lowercase one somewhere? That shouldn't be... Okay, yeah, see, that's not a, sorry about that. That's not a desktop. No, that's not a location, okay? So it doesn't know where to move that. I'm going to clear my screen real quick just so we get some more space here. So I can do it copy, test. I'm going to say go to desktop. Oops, you have to spell it right though. Remember, everything's case sensitive. So now if I go to desktop, okay, I do an ls. You see test was there, okay? But let me go back to my home directory. You see test is also still here, Okay, so it's there, and now it's back into desktop. So it actually creates a copy of the file and moves it back, or moves that to wherever you want. So you'll still have both files, okay? Whereas move actually just moves the file. You don't have two copies of it, okay? Let's move on here to our next slide, talk about some more commands. So we have PS, which will list all active user programs and display a PID of it, or process identification number. We have top, which shows an interactive list of current processes running. We have kill PID, which will stop the process with the listed PID number. We have the man command, which will display the manual for the listed command. We have cat, which displays the contents of a file. And it's also used to combine or concatenate multiple files. That's where cat comes from, guys. It's the middle three letters right there. We have vim, which will open a file in the terminal-based text editor. And vim stands for VI enhanced. Okay. And then we have chmod with the accompanying flags. And this will change your set permissions to the file defined by flag. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at some of these on our virtual box. So PS, let me clear my screen real quick. So PS will list any running processes, and see we have a bash here in PS. So bash is just the shell that's running right now, and PS is that command I just ran. Okay. We can also do top, and this is a live look at all the different systems and processes running right now. Oops. Man, my mouse is going crazy on me. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Alright, so we can see all the different commands running here, how much memory they're using, CPU, and things like that, okay? Now, to get out of this, I would hit Q for quit, but notice, when I did that it left the top part of the screen up still. Okay? Yeah, what is my mouse doing? There we go. So you see it still left that there even though it's not a live look anymore. So I'm going to clear the screen and it'll actually get rid of all that top display. There we go. So now we got our screen back. Okay. You can also kill something. So if I do a sleep 60, I'm going to throw that in the background here. Okay. I do a PS. You see that sleep command's running. I also have the process ID here. I can do a kill. I can do it by the process ID 416. And then you see it kills that command. Okay, so we can kill commands based off their process ID. Okay. I can also do a man of different commands. So I can do a man, let's say kill command. It's going to display a manual page for me and just give me as much info as I would like on these commands. Examples, different flags for it, things like that. And examples is typically how you're going to look at these man pages. You want to see how it's used, okay? Something important to know, guys, is in these text files, if you do a / and then type in something, that's how you search for different things. So if you look at the bottom of my screen here, I have a / and then I can type in examples, oops, and hit enter, and it's going to search through this document and find everything that says examples here, okay, which it shows here, it highlighted examples, alright? So that's how you can search in these documents without having to actually go line by line finding what you're looking for. Now to get out of this, we just hit Q, and it takes us back out of it, okay? Next one we have is cat. I'm going to clear my screen first. I'm going to do an ls, and I'm going to cat one of these files. So I can do cat test, and it doesn't give me anything because nothing's actually in that file. I can also do, let's do that sun.txt. Oh, that one's empty too. I wonder if any of these have stuff in them. Let's try info.txt. Nope, they're all empty. Okay. But that cat file just displays info in files, okay? Oh, we did have a desktop here, guys. That's why it actually tried to, or sent something to desktop, lowercase desktop. So cat is how you would look at info in files. We have vim, so vim. And actually, I'm going to put some text in these files so we can see cat work. So let's go to sun.txt. So when I do vim here, and I give the file name, It'll take me to an editor. Okay. And inside this editor, if I want to add text, I hit I for insert. Okay. Then I can start writing whatever I want here, okay? So I'm just going to put cat this text. And then to get out of this insert mode, I have to escape. Now I'm in command mode. And I have to hit colon right or WQ for right quit to save that info. So now when I do cat sun.txt, we'll see that it has that text in there. Cat this text. Well, should have been text. I misspelled it. That's a typo, but you get the idea. All right, so last one we're going to look here on this slide is that chmod, okay? So before I do that, I'm going to do a LL for long listing. Okay. We see all these different permissions here on these files, right? Okay. So let's look at just one file here. We're going to look at the sun.txt file, okay? We see these permissions here. So if I want to change permissions on that, I would do chmod. Actually, let me clear my screen here. I'm going to do something kind of tricky. We're not going to talk about what I'm doing right now, but it's just to, ll sun.txt, just so we can kind of compare here. Okay. So we see the permissions on sun.txt, okay? So if I want to change permissions on that, I can do chmod, I can do 777, I can do numeric form, or I can actually do all plus read, write, execute, okay? To actually change permissions on that sun.txt. I'm going to do a 444. Now, do ll grep. So now we see the permissions changed, right? So chmod changes the permissions on files, and we can do it in numeric form, or we can do it in the actual read, write, execute way. Okay. Let's head back to our PowerPoint. We got some more commands to look at here. We have head. This is how you view the first n lines of data, so you can actually give it a number to display. We have tail, which will view the last n lines of data, so you can give it a number display to display a certain amount of endpoint or n lines. Sort, which will organize the data into order. NL, or a number of lines, which will print line numbers before data. WC, word count, print a count of lines, words, and characters. Cut, which will cut the data into fields and only display the specified fields. Sed, which will do a search and replace on data. Unique, which will remove duplicate lines. And TAC, TAC, which will print the data in reverse order, okay? And guys, see how this is TAC? That might look a little weird, but if we go back to our previous slide here, we have cat, okay? So cat displays the order, or displays the contents in a file. This is just cat backwards, hence in reverse order. It's just displaying the content in reverse order, okay? So let's look at some of these. I won't be able to show you all of them, but I'll show you some of these. So let's do head first. So we put some text in that sun.txt file. Let me put some more lines in that file just so I can kind of show you what's going on here. So I'm gonna do Actually, let me go ahead and go to a privileged user here just to make things easier. There we go. Then, I'm not gonna. Okay, so we're gonna make a new file here. It's gonna be test.txt. Okay, I'm gonna vim test.txt. All right, I'm gonna put some lines in here. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. I'm gonna exit or escape, right quit. Okay. So now I'm gonna do head on that file. Head dash in 3. Okay, test.txt. You see, it just displays the first 3 lines of that file, right? Okay. I can do the same with tail. I can do tail -n3. It's going to display the last 3 lines of that file. There you go. Line 3, 4, 5. So it's the last 3. Okay. Let me go ahead and clear my screen to get some space back here. We can do sort. I won't be able to do that right now, but sort just sorts. Let me do a -- help to show you some of the things with it. Now it's going to give you a lot of things you can do here with sort. Typically, in is going to be the most common thing you use with sort, and we can see that here, which is numerical sort, or compare according to string numerical value. I use that one pretty frequently, sort -n. Okay, let me clear my screen here. We have print the number lines before data. We have print a count of word lines, so word count. Okay, so we can do that one. We'll do cat test.txt, and we're going to pipe that into word count. And there it gives you some numbers. It says there's 5 lines, 10 characters, letters, things like that. So it just gives you a word count. Okay. I won't be able to show you cut or set or unique, but I can show you tac. So we can do tac test.txt. And then you see it gave it in reverse order, right? So it should be, the normal order is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It gave it to you backwards, right? 5 is the first line, 4 is the second, 3 is the third, 2 is actually the 4th line, and so on, okay? So it gave it to us in reverse order, okay? Let's head back to our PowerPoint here. Go to our next slide, which is going to be talking about command line editing. So the terminal holds a history of all commands used in the current session or instance of the terminal. Okay, you can look back and forth in the history using the up and down arrow keys, which is very helpful, guys, especially if you don't want to keep typing out long commands. Similarly, you can move your cursor back and forth in your current line using the left and right arrow keys. So if your cursor is overlapping a character, typing will put the new character immediately before the overlap one. So let's look at this real quick. So if I press up on my arrow keys, it goes to the last command I did, right? If I press down, it'll go to my current command, which is nothing, okay? If I hit left on my cursor, or my arrow pads, see it starts moving left on the line. If I hit right, it starts moving right on the line. Now if I were to type a letter right here, it's going to put it behind that T, okay? So it actually puts the letter behind the cursor. So if I move one to the right now, it puts the letter behind and after the T, okay? Let's move on to our next slide here in our PowerPoint, which is going to be, oops. So we're still using command line editing, but here's kind of a graph of what those do. So up arrow recalls previous command, down recalls the next command, left will move the cursor left, right will move the cursor right. If we put or click Control A or home, it moves the cursor to the back of the line. If we do Control E or in, it moves the cursor to the end of the line. That's also really helpful, guys. So if I have a line here, and it just has a ton of stuff on it, I don't want to have to try and arrow all the way back to the beginning of the line, right? So I can hit Control A, and it takes me to the beginning of the line. Or I can do Control E on my keyboard, and it takes me to the end of the line. Super helpful, okay? Saves you a lot of time by not having to actually arrow back and forth on that line. So let's look at how to interact with the file system. So you've seen me do this a couple times now. This is the ls command. So it'll list the files and directories stored in the current directory you use, the ls command. Okay. So the ls command supports the -l option, which gives you more information about the files. Typically, if you're going to do a -l, it's because you want to see the permissions of the files, or maybe you want to see how big the file is. Okay. So I'll show you that again. So I've been doing ls, okay, which shows the files, or you can do, let me clear my screen real quick. So ls, or I can do ls-l, which shows all the files and the permissions. ll is a shorthand version of ls-l. Okay, it does a long listing of stuff. Notice this, though, also displays the hidden files that we have here. Okay, so ls-a shows hidden files. So if we do ls-la, ls-la is the same thing as ll, okay? Let me clear my screen. Let's head back to our PowerPoint. So we can also use meta characters, which are very useful in the command line. Okay, so meta characters have a special meaning in Unix. So for example, the star or splat and question mark are meta characters. So we see here we have ls ch star .doc, and this is going to display all the files, the name of which start with ch and end with .doc. Okay, depending where I put this star dictates how it'll be used. Okay, this star is here. Let's go to a VirtualBox here. So if I do a ls star test, it's gonna say, hey, show me everything that ends with test. Okay, if I put that star at the end of test here, it's gonna say, hey, show me everything that starts with test. Okay. So where we put that star dictates how it's used, okay? Since we put that other one in the middle, this is again saying, show me everything that starts with test and ends with test, okay? So it just depends where you put that star, how it's used. Okay. So let's talk about how to create files. So you actually did see me use the touch command to create an empty file with a given name. Okay, so if I do touch file name, a file name with that name, or with the name file name is created. Okay, if a file with that name already exists, touch simply updates it with the last modified time. So a file name already existed, and I do touch file name again, it's just going to modify the last time that that file was edited. Okay, we can use the Vim editor to actually edit text or files on the Unix system. Okay, you simply just need to give it a path as the first argument, and we're going to discuss Vim later in detail. Okay. Now Vim 2 will just go ahead and create files. So let's say we do a Vim and we say the file we want to create. If the file doesn't exist, it's going to go ahead and create that file for us, open it, and we can start editing it. There are other Linux commands that create the file if it does not exist. For instance, if we try adding a text to a new file that does not exist with nano command, then it'll perform two tasks. A, it'll create the text file, and B, it will add text to it, okay? Just like I just said with Vim, if the file doesn't already exist, it's going to open that file for you, create it, and you can start editing it. We can also create multiple files at the same time, too, in Linux, which is helpful. So to copy a file, as we talked about earlier, you use the cp command. So you do cp, the file you want to copy, and where you want to copy it to, okay? So here's an example. We do copy file name, copy file. And this will copy the file name to the destination copy file. Okay. Now, keep in mind we didn't give a full path here, so it's just going to assume that this is going to be used in our current directory here. Okay. So this is the same file as this still, just with the new name, and it's in the current directory. So we talked about cat earlier. So in the below example, the contents of Etsy password are displayed using cat. Now, we also talked about head and tail. So if there's too much info and you just want to see like just the first few lines of a file, we can use head. Or maybe you want to see just the last few lines of a file, we can use tail. And as I mentioned earlier, move is how you actually rename files. Okay? So the syntax for move is move, the file you're moving or the file you want to rename, and then where you're moving it to or the new file name. So for example, we have move, file name, new file. Okay, so this is going to move the file name, and it's going to rename it new file in the current directory. Okay. So we also have a few ways we can control the terminal. We have Control C, Control Z, and Control D. Control C is the interrupt signal, and this causes the program to abort, but may simply stop some programs. Z is the suspend signal, and again, this will cause the program to abort, but it also may simply stop until they get a signal to resume, like say continue. And then we have Control D, or end of file character, which is used for when a program wants a full file for input, but you need to type it in, or intend to type it in. So I will show you that real quick. So if I run that sleep 60 command again, notice I don't actually have control of the terminal here. Okay, so if I do Control C, it's going to end that command, and now I do actually have control of the terminal again. Okay, let me clear my screen. If I do that again and hit Control Z, you can see here I don't have control of the terminal. I can't actually do anything. Control Z actually stopped that command. So remember, Control Z is signal stop, and it even tells you here Sleep 60 was stopped, and now I have control of my terminal again, right? So those are helpful if your system's locked up, or maybe you need a job to stop running and you want control back of your terminal. So in summary, guys, we learned about basic user commands, logging in and logging out, terminal emulators, navigating the file system, viewing and copying files, and how to manipulate the terminal. Next session, we're going to go over input and output redirection of pipes, command separation and grouping, background execution, file name expansion, shell variables, command substitution, quoting and escaping meta characters, fish shell features, command execution, and startup files. Guys, if you need extra help with this stuff, go ahead and follow these links. We have weekly and monthly plans available for private tutoring sessions for system administrator management, as well as Linux and Bash scripting. Thank you so much, guys. This concludes session 1. Looking forward to seeing you in session 2.